Welcome to today's episode of Acing the Board Examination, a podcast series to support you to face SSCE exam with ease and confidence. In this episode, we will be diving deep into the Grade 12 English exam to let you know everything you need to be aware of in order to answer all the questions aptly. From the exam format to the techniques of attempting questions from each section, we will break down the key details for you to understand. So stay tuned as we discuss the do's and don'ts, share some valuable tips, and give you a rundown of what to expect on the day of the exam. To guide us through, we have with us Miss Sonali Roy, Head of English Department, Delhi Public School, Bangalore East. Her teaching career spans over a period of 20 years, and she has been heading the English department since last 10 years at DPS East. Owing to her years of dedication as an educator, she has been deservedly awarded the Karnataka Excellence Award for being the best English lecturer and the Sahodaya Guru Samman Award for being a champion educator. A very warm welcome, ma'am. We are thrilled to have you with us.
Thank you, Miss Nafisa, for those gracious words of welcome. And hello to all my dear students.
Ma'am, according to you, what is the foremost important aspect to pay attention to while writing the Grade 12 English exam?
Thank you for that question, Nafisa ma'am. As my experience goes, the biggest challenge I feel students face during the English exam is time management. Often, even after a very thorough preparation, we have seen very brilliant students also falter to manage time, thereby resulting in missing out on very important questions and submitting an incomplete paper. This is very tragic. So to combat this, we have developed a strategy to attempt the paper in an order which will save their time. I advise students to follow this order for attempting the paper. Firstly, they should attempt section A, then section C, and finally section B. Section A, or the reading section, has a very assured 22 marks, and they can fetch those marks very easily if they are attempting the section in the beginning. Often, students misconstrue, thinking that since it's a relatively easier segment, it can be attempted at the end. But they do not realize that towards the end of the paper, when they are in a great rush, they tend to make errors and therefore lose out on those confirmed marks which they would have otherwise secured so assuredly and indisputably. Next, the child should attempt the literature section. Now, this is section C, and this is the largest section comprising of half the weightage of the paper, which is 40 marks and should never be left ignored, or rather, it should be attempted with utmost focus and attention. Therefore, this is also a section which is, I call it a scene section, which is the child is aware of the content and he or she has prepared the content so well. So as they are fresh in their minds, they should immediately attempt this section. And finally, the student should come to the writing section, which is section B. I would rather call it a stretchable section or an elastic section. The reason being, you can keep endlessly thinking about more profound or noteworthy or impactful points depending on the time that you are left with. If you have limited time, do not bother. Quickly jot down the value points in correct grammatically constructed sentences, and that is the ask of CBSE. You are through with the section. Understand one thing, students. If you write a statement or a sentence more or a sentence less, it will go unnoticed. It will not be understood by the examiner or the evaluator. But if you write a sentence more or less, rather, if you write a sentence less in the literature section or the comprehension section, you will end up losing marks there. Therefore, writing this section B in a shortened way will not affect your marks at all. Therefore, the sequence of attempting the paper should be section A, then section C, and finally section B.
That's an excellent key to time management for the English exam, ma'am. I'll pick up my second question to you. Can you guide us with your impeccable suggestions as to how to use the reading time effectively?
Yes, a very important question indeed. The reading time is very crucial, not just for the English paper, but for all papers. But specifically for English paper, why I say so? Firstly, I would suggest the students to skim through the entire paper, browse through the choices, and then finally arrive at the reading segment. As you see, there is already a reading segment in the paper, in the English paper. Therefore, the focus must finally go to the reading section of the paper during the last part of the reading time. During this time, the child should scan the passage depending on the questions. First, read the questions of the reading comprehension passages, scan through the entire passage very minutely, find out the answers, and as soon as the time starts to write, put those answers down on your paper immediately as they're fresh in your mind. Therefore, remember I had mentioned that you should attempt reading section first, that is section A first. Therefore, the end of the reading time should be the reading section, and the beginning of the writing time should again be the reading section, thereby creating a very effortless and seamless start of your English paper writing.
That's an important advice on how to utilize reading time. My next question for you, ma'am, will be what are the key areas that a child should focus on while preparing for the exam?
I think this forms the crux of an examination, that's preparation. And yes, English preparation is very, very, I would say, straightforward and direct. The first advice that I would like to give to students is read your textbooks very, very, very thoroughly, as if they are the holy books. Follow them to the T. Read every chapter minutely in details at least 3 to 4 times, and you are sorted. You need not be hunting around for anything else. Only read the chapters, keep a pencil in your hand, continue to mark important details in the lesson, focus on those points again when you are revisiting those chapters. Secondly, I would like to mention about selective study. Uh, in the English paper, there are no predetermined or pre-decided options set by the board. So options may come vary from year to year in the question paper. Therefore, you cannot decide on selective study for the English paper. Often it happens you leave out a lesson, a particular lesson, assuming that it's very difficult and rely on another, reasoning that it's a simpler one. But do you realize, as I have seen over the years, that it has been observed many a times, very simple questions come from difficult chapters and tough questions are asked from easy chapters. Therefore, please do not leave out any chapter. Focus on every chapter with um, equal intensity and equal concentration. And the other point is about the writing skills. Even in the writing skills, there are no pre-decided choices should not be made. You may feel that you may opt one writing skill over another writing skill, but it had been noted that in one year, in the CBSE examination, there were two choices, two questions from the same writing skill topic, given one against the other as options or as choice. So you will be trapped in any time you try that selective study. Please do not do selective study. Even if you do not understand a chapter deeply, if it is a last moment preparation, skim through it, roughly read the lesson, understand it as much as you can, but do read every chapter and appear for the examination. Finally, I would like to mention about the reference materials. In this context, I would like to highly and very strongly discourage you to refer to any materials available in the market or even online. We as CBSE teachers are very closely working with CBSE, and we are thoroughly updated with all the patterns and the demands of the board. Therefore, reference materials also often available in the market are misleading because, and even online materials cater to a very diverse set of readers. They can be beginners, they can be scholars, but it may not be aligned to CBSE pattern. So you should not be referring to any reference materials in the for your preparation. Secondly, do not follow the formats given anywhere except your teachers giving you the format. They understand that they are the absolute formats that they share. The formats that are shared by the teachers are the absolute ones, because anywhere else you go to refer to formats, you may be misguided or you may be misled. However, in one instance or in one area you can focus on reference material is to treat those reference materials as a practice booklet. Refer to those questions. Once you finish preparation on a particular topic, go to those practice materials, refer to them for more questions, more practice, and extensive understanding of the types of questions that you may expect in the examination. Also for writing skills, if you want to refer to any textbooks or any material, please do it for the content, the value points related to a particular topic. Please do not refer to it for formats. That would be my advice to you, how to handle external materials besides what is given in the books and besides what is given by your teachers.
Thank you, ma'am. This will be a significant guideline to the students for preparation, I believe. My next question to you is, what should be kept in mind while writing literature answers?
As already mentioned, the literature segment is the one with maximum weightage. Half the marks of the paper is allotted to this segment. That's 40 marks, which is quite a big chunk, and so must be dealt with utmost care. First of all, let me guide you on how to handle MCQs, or how to write rather the MCQ answers. This also would include your MCQs for the comprehension questions. Please do not write the option number only. Do write the entire answer, the entire option, because often when you write those C's and the A's and the D's, you don't understand. The evaluator is speculating most of the time if the C is closed, which looks like A, or if the A's bar is little raised, which will make it look like D. So she or he will be baffled seeing the options only written in a hurry. Therefore, please ensure that you do write the entire answer along with the option number. For short questions, be crisp and be precise, to the point, because you need to answer in 30 to 40 words and include all the value points in those 40 words connected to the question. Please do not give a general summary, because you will waste your time by doing that. Remember, I started the talk by telling you that you need to manage time. That's the key to crack the paper, the English paper. So if you are writing excessively long answers for the short questions, or unnecessary value points, unnecessary points for the short questions, you will lose out not only marks or time, but also marks, because When you write excess, you may lose out on the main value points which you're supposed to write. Therefore, neither of it you should overdo while writing short answers. The long answers. For these long answers, we teachers have found a general usual tendency among students uh, that they write the entire story. Now it is for the evaluator, to scan and to ransack amongst those points and find out what would cater to the actual question or to the value points prescribed by the board, the marking scheme. We are fumbling to get those value points from the long summaries and the stories that you narrate in your long answers. Therefore, please refrain from writing the summary or writing the stories in the long answers. You should skim through the entire story. Suppose you get a question on the title of a particular text. Just skim through the entire story mentally to identify portions of the lessons related to the title of the story. That should be your strategy. That should be your approach. Secondly, if suppose humanity is the theme of one of the questions, then pick out only those instances or evidences from the story focusing on humanity, and you can relieve the rest. And finally, when you come to poems, please follow teacher's explanation and the teacher's notes. As I told you that we attend CBSE workshops, we conduct CBSE workshops, and therefore our interpretation of the poems are completely aligned with the board's expectations. Therefore, please follow the teacher's explanations and the notes. From the poems, identify all the poetic devices and create a list of the poetic devices from each poem. Your teachers have already shared it with you. You just have to learn them by heart.
So we get to know that literature contains the maximum weightage, so it demands utmost focus. Thank you, ma'am, for the guidance. I would now move on to the next question. What would be your take on handling questions on writing skills?
Okay, so finally, we come to the writing skills segment. What I find among the students before I deal with the different types of writing skills we have, they're always confused with whether there should be a box around the writing skill or there shouldn't be a box. So a very clear mantra I would like to give to my students is that all short writing skills will be within a box except the formal letter type of invitation and the formal letter type of reply. Apart from these two, all short writing skills will be within a box. Secondly, let me just delineate to you the types of writing skills we have. The short writing skills are the notice writing and the invitation writing. The long writing skills are article writing and report writing. And the other form of writing which we have is formal letter writing. This also has two types, which is letter to the editor and job application. Therefore, that do not confuse the letter to the editor, formal letter writing with the formal letter of the invitation type. Please understand that the formal letter of the invitation is a short writing skill, has only 4 marks, and the long writing skill, letter writing, formal letter writing, has 5 marks. The short writing skills word limits are 50 words. That's the word limit for short writing skill. And the long writing skill word limits will be 120 to 150 words. Similarly, the letters will also be of this word limit. Now coming to the format. Formats. Now there is no pardoning if you do not learn the format by heart, because the format is the framework or the foundation of a writing skill. Understand that if you are not creating a proper foundation, your building will tumble. Therefore, the formats are of utmost importance and they must be learned by heart. We cannot forgive you if you do not learn the formats by heart. Samples. Now, we have tried to make things very easy by giving samples of notice invitation, and job application. Out of all the writing skills that we have mentioned, the three of these writing skills, these three have a set sample. If you have a very foolproof and a perfect sample, you just do not need to do anything except learn that sample by heart and only change the data in your sample that you have learned by heart. Therefore, you need not waste any time drafting about it, creating a new content, or thinking about it. I am giving you all tips so that you can manage your 3 hours very, very, very effectively. So learn the three formats, the three samples which we are giving you in classes, which your teachers are giving you in classes, the notice sample, the invitation, all types of invitation samples, and the job application sample. Only make changes in the data as per the question, and you are through. For choices, I would suggest, and my team also agrees, that job application is a better choice than the letter to the editor. You would just mention that, ma'am, just discourage us from going ahead with the choices. But in case you have these two choices, then I would suggest that you attempt the job application, because the job application, though it has 2 parts and it is a long writing, but it is so straightforward and it does not need any time to think or to create something new, that you will save a lot of time if you learn the job application and just produce it in the paper. You need not think of new and very varied or diverse value points. Therefore, please attempt job application, even if it seems lengthier, but it is easier. Next, I would mention that there are often there are points given in the question. And there are sometimes a box of clues given after a question. The evaluator is expecting all those points, be it in the question. The question says sometimes, right, mention so and so, so and so. Those, sometimes there's a clue box given. The evaluator expects all those points in the answer, because the marking scheme which comes from the board that mentions those value points to be the main basic value points, and then any other points are also accepted. But unless we see those value points, we do not feel like giving you full marks for those questions where already some pointers are stated in the question. So please use those key value points given in the question.
Yes, it is very true that students find this section to be the most difficult to handle. So I believe your suggestions will help them answer this segment effortlessly. I would now come to my last question to you, ma'am. Which is that area you feel students lose maximum marks in?
Thank you, ma'am, for that question, because that's a very, very imperative area that and concern for all us evaluators as well as teachers, because all these efforts that we see and that we have put in, that I guided students to put in throughout this session, students go very close to scoring a centum often, but we see that we are unable to give that centum or the 99 or 98 because there have been spelling errors in the paper. Spelling errors are unpardonable by the board, and CBSE is very, very particular about it. Marks are deducted for spelling errors. Full marks are not awarded in answers where there are errors, spelling errors as well as grammatical errors. Grammatical errors, even if students have come a long way, they have been even able to overcome, because often we see students speak well, therefore they write well too. But these nuances of spellings, they have not been able to master at all. So I would like to advise the students to follow a few tips or steps to combat this erroneous part. I would like students to learn the basic confusing spellings from each lesson or each poem very, very minutely, so that they do not make these repeated errors. For example, while we prepare for the poem My Mother at 66, the words, the commonly mistaken words like separation, aging, repetition, we find them making errors repeated number of times constantly in these areas, in these words. So once these words are identified either by the teacher or by the students, focus must be to master the spelling of these few words where children are going wrong. So what we can do is these common confusing spellings from each lesson can be identified and learned. What can be done is note down these spellings, have a diary, a small notebook, diary, or your English notebook. And after each exam that you appear for, when you get your paper, or after every exercise that you submit to your teachers for correction, you get your notebooks back, you get your exam papers back for cross-checking your errors. You just note these words where you have made a mistake earlier and learn the correct spellings, revise the correct spelling, so that in the next exam you take this notebook and you refer to these words where you had made a mistake, and you don't make a mistake the second time that you go for the next exam. So I think following these guidelines meticulously, each student can scale up their score by several notches and ace the exam. I trust you all will keep each of these steps and points in mind and apply them well while preparing for and writing the examination. Good luck and God bless.
I truly hope that our students use all these guidelines to their benefit. Now, with this, we come to an end of this program. And thank you so much, ma'am, for your informative and valuable insight. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank the management, Principal Dr. Manila Carvalho, Vice Principal Ms. Preeti Suta, and the technical team for providing us with this brilliant platform. Thank you all.